Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? It's time for another episode of Seahawks Free Agency Primer. And we're going to be taking a look at a position where we've already made some big investments, but we do need to give this area a little TLC this offseason. I'm talking about linebacker, specifically the WILL linebacker. And before we go any further, I want to be very clear about something. I am talking about the linebacker position purely from a will perspective. There will be a video in the future where I talk about the other side of outside linebacker, specifically the proposed hybrid outside linebacker position, where I talk about some of the players you guys will probably get a little more excited about. But this video is all about, see, here's the thing. I want a linebacker who can cover. We've got a lot of money right now invested in Wagner, and whether or not that remains the case when the season starts remains to be seen. But he can't cover anymore. And Jordan Brooks, he's never going to be able to cover because that was known to be his weakness as soon as he came out of college. And it has been his weakness so far in his NFL career. And by the way, don't think that Wagner's any better than Brooks in coverage at this point. He's not. The only difference is one guy plays in the middle, the other guy plays Will. If they switched positions, Wagner would get beat up a lot more and Brooks would get beat up a lot less. It's just the nature of the position. So neither guy can cover. I think we were hoping that Cody Barton would become our Will cover, or at the very least our cover linebacker. And where we are with Cody Barton is anybody's guess. And I don't know if I want to be going into 2022 thinking to myself, okay, if Cody Barton doesn't play well this season, then we're going to get burnt over the middle all day long by tight ends, because we have two starting linebackers that can't cover. So obviously, in my ideal world, if we're going to stick with that 4-3, then you're going to see Wagner gone, Brooks in the middle, and then you need a new Will to inherit some of those coverage responsibilities that Brooks will thankfully be leaving behind. Now, depending on how this hybrid defense goes, the fact that we will have a Will who can't cover may just be something we have to live with, but keeping our minds in the 4-3, let's take a look here. Okay, so the first guy that people are going to be talking about with regards to a hypothetical Will in the event of Wagner leaving and Brooks moving will probably be KJ Wright for pretty obvious reasons. I'm going to talk about this for a little bit, but I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. KJ Wright is going to turn 33 before the next season starts, and I know he kind of told this, I guess you could call it like a sob story on a radio show the other day about how badly he wanted to come back to Seattle, and some fans were all feeling bad for him, and they were thinking like, "Oh, we're such jerks. Why wouldn't we bring him back?" But I just don't see where he fits in here. KJ Wright went over to Las Vegas and didn't really do that much. He played okay. Okay, 2021, he played in every game, started half of them, had 51 tackles, covered numbers. I mean, the Raiders did a good job, I think, of keeping him out of coverage situations. The few times it wasn't good. I remember there was one game against the Chargers in primetime where the Raiders had to put KJ in coverage due to injuries and he got roasted. Other than that, they mostly just played him in rundowns, which, as far as I'm concerned, with or without Wagner, thanks to Jordan Brooks, I'm not that worried about the rundowns. I'm worried about the pass downs. I'm worried about coverage. And KJ Wright does not offer me anything as a blitzer or as a cover man. Now, maybe there's a price. Like, Spotrac thinks he's going to get 2 years, 14.4, which no. Hell no. I don't know where this number comes from, but keeping in mind that KJ Wright was a part-time player last year, if you're going to bring back KJ, I'm not looking to spend any more than the veteran minimum. If you go a penny over the veteran minimum, I'm closing the door. I don't know where he fits in, especially if you're going to run a hybrid. What is KJ Wright going to do in a hybrid? Play outside linebacker? He's going to be sent on the blitz 10 times a game? Yeah, right. So I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the coverage ability at this point. He's too slow. I'll be perfectly honest. There's not a whole lot in this crop of potential will linebackers in free agency that I like. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go back to KJ just because I know him and I like him and he has nostalgic value in our heart. But some people are going to get gassed up for the idea of bringing back KJ, but I'm only on board if it's for like 1.5 million or whatever the vet minimum is. I don't know where he fits in on this defense, and because of that, I can't commit any real money to him. So there you go. I'm going to talk about a few guys here that intrigue me, but I'm not in love with any of this, and I'm going to say it right now. If we do need another will linebacker, we should probably look towards the draft. But here are some guys who have caught my attention. First guy is a Kaiser White from the Chargers, actually listed as a safety, but has played mostly linebacker for the Chargers since he got there. Had a bit of a breakout year in 2021, 144 tackles, had a couple interceptions as well. And if you take a look at his coverage metrics, they're not amazing, but they're fine. He got targeted almost 60 times, allowed less than 360 yards. So 6.1 yards per target, that's really good. 88.1 QB rating, solid. Didn't get targeted nearly as much as Jordan Brooks. So if you're trying to find somebody to complement Jordan Brooks in a 4-3 and possibly play inside linebacker in a 3-4 and be able to complement Brooks' game as well, then I think Kaiser White is a pretty good candidate. Nicholas Morrow is a guy who missed all of 2021, but last time he played, he was with the Raiders, and I think he played fairly well. He was actually a little bit of a presence on the blitz in 2020 for the Raiders, had almost 80 tackles, so he got a decent chunk of burn. His coverage numbers were fine, 65 times targeted, only allowed 4.5 yards per target, which is actually really good. QB rating allowed only 86. So this guy kind of stands out to me as somebody who can cover a little bit and was pretty effective on the blitz. So this might actually be a really good guy to be part of your hybrid defense. So Nicholas Morrow would be a guy I would be somewhat interested in. The fact that he missed all of 2021 is a red flag, but you can live with that. Eric Wilson, another guy that I would kind of like. He's linebacker. He's played for the Texans, I think the Vikings, and the Eagles. And he's been a little bit of a journeyman lately, which is a bit of a bad sign, but I'm looking to not break the bank here, to be clear. I'm not trying to spend a bunch of money on a will linebacker when I've already got this investment in Brooks, and I may be bringing back Bobby for some amount of money. If you don't bring back Bobby, I'm still trying to go cheap here, because I'm just looking for a guy who can cover decently. I'm not trying to get Lance Briggs. And this guy, he's had a little bit of success on the blitz. He had 3 interceptions in 2020 for the Vikings, over 120 tackles. His coverage numbers in 2021, they were not good, but in 2020, he held up 5.6 yards per target, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. There's something here, and you could probably get him for a few million. Sign me up. Last couple names here, Kamu Grugier-Hill of the Houston Texans, won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles several years ago. In 2021 with the Texans, a rudderless franchise, he played 14 games, had 3 sacks, over 100 tackles. Nothing amazing, but he proved to be a pretty decent blitzer, and he held up okay in coverage. He wasn't put into a ton of coverage situations, and he wasn't amazing or anything, but he did okay. Again, I'm looking at a guy who seems to be more adept at it than Jordan Brooks, and somebody who probably is only going to cost a few $1 million. So if we really are going to be running a lot of 3-4, then you do have to wonder if it makes sense to invest a little bit more into like somebody who can be a will and an inside linebacker alongside Brooks. But honestly, some of these guys could probably do that. I think that a guy who can play cover, who can drop into coverage better alongside Wagner at that inside linebacker spot could help him a lot. So this might be a guy who can play kind of a dual role in this defense. And the last guy would be Damien Wilson, most recently of the Jaguars. He was originally drafted by the Cowboys, won a Super Bowl in Kansas City, and actually kind of had a breakout year with that team the year they won the Super Bowl. And he's had a pretty decent career. He had over 100 tackles and 3 sacks for Jacksonville last year. Coverage numbers are okay, not the best, but again, better than Brooks. And in Jacksonville, you're not getting backed up by a whole lot. Not a lot of pass rush, not a lot of help. It's just a miserable experience playing football in Jacksonville right now. So Damien Wilson, he's has a history of playing some middle, and he has a history of playing a little on the outside. So he might actually be perfect for that secondary inside linebacker role next to Brooks. And again, even if you bring back Bobby, you need somebody who can cover competently. And I'm sorry, Wagner and Brooks are not guys who can cover competently. And at this point, I don't think they ever will be. Wagner, just because of age, he used to be able to cover really well, I think. He's had some years where he was great in coverage. And Brooks, because that's just not his game. So if you're looking to spend a couple million on a guy who can fill at least one, maybe both of those roles, those are my guys. But I'm hoping we can address this position in the draft, which we'll be talking about in the future. But these are the guys I see as potential will linebacker gets. Let me know what you guys think down below. See you guys later. There are probably some other names that I missed who would be about as good as candidates as these guys. So let me know if you know them. See you guys later. Go Hawks.